you remember about going into the 2011 finals, and you guys were, I think, prohibitive underdogs?
Yeah. It's, to me, it's the greatest stage in sports. I mean, I've been following the NBA since I was in grade school. And I grew up in a place where you couldn't get games on TV. You could only get hockey games up in northern New York State. So we had to drive to go see games that were in the playoffs or the finals or even the regular season. So, but you know, this is the greatest stage. It's the greatest opportunity. It's also the greatest challenge, because you know we're going against an opponent that really, you know, on metrics has, you know, really changed the game, and so we got our work cut out for us.
Where did you drive to, just out of curiosity?
We had to drive from Lisbon, New York, to Ogdensburg, New York, which is only about an 8-minute drive, but we just didn't have cable.
Oh, okay.
We had a thing, you turn the rotor in the direction and the antenna would move, and it would either go towards Kingston, Ontario or Watertown, New York. And you know, back in those days, we only got the CBS affiliate, and they didn't have the NBA back in those early years. So, you know, it was. But we got hockey night in Canada, and I was a big Canadians and Maple Leafs fan.
You mentioned the Thunder, obviously, when you played them last time, so that's the best team on the planet right now. I mean, just what's, you know, you talk about them changing the game and just the depth they have and what makes them
Well, really both sides of the ball. Their depth of great defenders is, you know, is staggering. Really, you know, you talk about. I mean, Shea's a great scorer, but he's also a great defender too. And you got Jalen Williams from Santa Clara. You got Dort. You got Caruso, and a bunch of other guys that people don't talk about that can really defend too. Wiggins, Kendrick Williams, Casey Wallace, all these guys, you know, are just great competitors. So, and then they've got the rim protection to go along with it. So it's you know, it'll be a daunting challenge, but a great one.
I know you just rattled off a bunch of the individuals. What do they do at a team level that makes their defense so good every night?
Well, they have great coaching. I mean, that's obvious. You know, Mark Dagnall is a guy that I've just had so much respect for over the last 5 years. You know, not just because of what they did last year and this year, but just how he's developed that roster and how they've developed their organizational philosophy. It's been a master class, you know. So their schemes are super solid, and they've got change-ups that they throw at you, you know, with trapping and zone and all kinds of things, cross-matching. I mean, you name it. And so it's going to present some different challenges than we've seen.
We're probably seeing Tyrese embrace pressure. When he first got here, he was saying, "You guys took a chance on me." He wanted to deliver for this franchise. Obviously, more work to be done, but just seeing him navigate that over the last few years.
Well, you know, he came into this really leaning into the opportunity. New start. I'm all in from day one. You know, I'm going full bore. I want to learn. Coach me hard. I know there's going to be ups and downs. I'm gonna navigate it. He's a guy that you can always talk to about the hard times and the good times. And so there's just been so much over the last 2 years in particular. And if you look back to the year previous to the last two, I mean, you know, we were 5 games over 500 in January. when we stepped onto the court in New York to play the Knicks. And then Myles had a back thing, and all of a sudden he couldn't play, and O'Shea was in the rotation, and then his hamstring flared up, and all of a sudden we had like 8 guys, and James Johnson was tossed into the starting lineup, and then we went like 2-9 and fell out of it, So that's how fragile this whole thing is, and I think Ty understands that. I know that when you talk to Pascal about these kinds of things, Pascal's a guy that had to cut his teeth in the G League for 2 or 3 years before even getting a chance to become a consistent rotation player in Toronto. So, he has great appreciation for what it takes to not just get to the finals, but to get to the playoffs at all. And so, we're young. They're younger, but both teams are relatively young, and I hope the world watching is enthusiastic about the way these two franchises play, because they both play a style that is so pure from a basketball standpoint.
Is there about Ty embracing the opportunity and Pascal going through it, which was like almost everybody on this team has gone through something basically that led them to kind of embrace this opportunity with Aaron being in Boston and Andrew being in Instagram and stuff like that. How much do you think that's kept this group together and driven this group, that everybody's got sort of something that works as kind of a shift?
Well, we've all been doubted at some point in time in our lives, and then you got to look in the mirror, and you got to face the doubts, and you decide how you're gonna go forward. Are you gonna fight through and find a way, or are you gonna find an excuse? So our team is a bunch of guys that have found a way, in many different kinds of situations. There are a lot of stories about people from different backgrounds. You talk about what Ben Mathurin went through growing up, and Myles has had a real interesting background. T.J. McConnell, our group has got a lot of great stories, as does theirs. So, and listen, we had Alex Caruso in a free agent camp in Dallas in 2015, and passed on bringing him to Summer League. They've got great stories too, right? And so I think it helps make this, a compelling matchup. We know what we're up against in terms of what the expectation is as to who's going to, be the better team. But that's all part of it.
You mentioned a couple more guys faced guards that have been really tough covers, good at getting downhill, drawing fouls, getting into their spots. What makes him specifically so difficult to guard? We haven't seen him grow really into that role in the last couple of years.
This guy was born to be great. You can just tell. He has a demeanor. He has a coolness, an attitude. He's unflappable. He knows who he is, and he has great belief in himself. And so, from afar, I've been watching this guy, and it's pretty breathtaking. It looks like the guy didn't even break a sweat. And it's really hard to fathom how difficult it is to score 30 points in one men's league game, let alone doing it every game for 2 years in a row in the NBA. Just think about it. It's unbelievable.
One more time. As a head coach, how has he challenged you a bit? Not in a bad way, just in general, when he's playing such an unconventional style. It's kind of unique, and I don't know if anybody can say they play Tyrese Haliburton. It's very unique.
That was what drew us to him. They're just, and you talk about a guy that's been doubted. When when I was in Dallas, we were one of the few teams that thought he was the best player in the draft. And we tried like hell to get him and move up and everything else, and we just couldn't do it. I mean, and when I tell you that Mark Cuban tried everything, you know, when Mark puts his mind to something, he can usually figure something out. You know, I mean, look, we ended up getting Luka Doncic at the third pick. You know, so he and Donnie Nelson were ahead of the curve on that one. We just simply could not find a way to get Tyrese. And so Ty is different. There's just so many different things about him, and I've learned so much over the years just about, you know, players that appear to have quirky elements to their game, and the importance of looking at what they can do, and not focusing on what they may not be able to do particularly well. It was clear when we got Ty that we needed to surround him with shooting, with toughness, and depth, and resources, you know. And he knew the work that he needed to do. He knew he needed to get stronger, and he knew that he was going to go through the gamut of ups and downs on this journey. So really, really proud of how he has just stayed the course through difficult times. I mean, the beginning of the year this year, no one will ever know how difficult that was for him. But through it all, he may have missed one game in the first 30, kept playing, kept believing in himself, kept engaging his teammates, kept a great attitude. There's nothing more you can ask for.
Rick, the Simon family and the Pacers organization is flying out all the employees out to Oklahoma City for games 1 and 2. How special is that? How special is this organization, and how nice will it be to have that group out there to support you guys?
Yeah, it's an awesome gesture by Mr. Simon and the Simon family and Mr. Rails. You know, everyone is being allowed, not just one person, but, you know, 3 or 4. You know, it's an amazing gesture, and so there'll be more than one plane going. They'll be going for each of the first 2 games, and so it's awesome. It just shows how much they care about the people in the organization. When we went to Paris this year, you know, the league gave us a certain stipend for going on the trip, but they supplied, you know, an unusually large plane, and we brought extra people. And, you know, on the whole, the Pacers lost a lot of money on that trip, but we had a great time. And so here, this is another great opportunity. They did this in 2000 when we went. I was an assistant coach, so it's great. And you know, we're looking forward to the opportunity to play on this stage, but also to have our family join us and be a part of it.
Speaking of 2000, what do you remember about just being a part of that group, that team like the Rise, just getting that place?
Yeah, it was great. It's in the past. It's in the past. I'm not big on waxing sentimental on things. You know, we got to look at what's happening right now and what's happening next. And so, and you know, as in 2000, we have another daunting opponent.
Drew, when before that Game 6 planning did you kind of realize you'd have more of that Brunson assignment, or was that something that came after Aaron got better in the field?
Yeah, I was kind of always ready for it, but it came when you got the foul trouble. I mean, Aaron was doing a good job on him, making it tough. It was just hard for him to play him with the fouls.
I know you learned a lot about defending him from last year. What was different for you this time, or were you in any way more motivated by the fact that you didn't have that assignment for much this year?
It's just about competing every possession, trying to make it tough, and seeing where it ends up at the end of the game. He's had a bunch of times where he's won the matchup, so just got to compete and try to play hard.
How much of that can you apply now to Shea and the Thunder's guards?
Same mentality going in for sure.
How much of it is maybe mentality as opposed to the physical things that a fan can see when you're preparing for defending a guard like that?
How much of it is mentality?
Compared to like what a fan can see, on video or live.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mixture of both, playing hard and competing, as well as strategy and understanding tendencies and trying to figure guys out a little bit.
You've obviously been defending top-level guys for most of the last 3 years. What have you learned about dealing with guys who make a point to get fouled, basically? What do you have to learn about dealing with that when guys, that's part of their game is getting themselves into how better do you think at handling that over time?
Yeah, through experience, you just find out places where your hands get in the way and try to keep them back while also being physical and being in the right spots, but keeping your hands away, keeping your hands off.
What to you makes this Thunder defense so good?
They got a lot of individually good defenders, and then they come together as a group, and it makes a good team defense. They're athletic, versatile, physical, pose a few problems for sure.
Are they similar in any way to any of the teams that you faced already? Defensively?
Defensively?
Yeah, for you guys, defensively.
They'll get better.
Drew, obviously you had a chance to play with SGA and Lou on the national team. What's it going to be like to just face them again on this stage?
I'm looking at like another opponent. It's going to be it's going to be competitive. I always want to see them do well when I'm not playing against them, but now we're competing, so it'll be fun. It'll be good competition.
Ty, last year we were asking you a lot throughout the clap run about the new emotions every round and stuff like that. Now this is new for you. How are you feeling ahead of these games emotionally? Is it kind of how you expected you to feel?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. This is the reason that we do this, and everybody's dreamed of playing in the finals their whole life. So I'm really excited to be a part of this and a part of this with this organization and this group. And I couldn't sleep after game 6, but I think part of it was due to excitement and part of it was due to now what are we preparing for? So I'm really excited to be a part of it, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Curious, what's the first NBA Finals you remember watching as a kid?
That's a great question. That I truthfully remember, 2011, Heat Mavs. That's the first one I can say I really sat down and truthfully remember, and I hated Rick for that. And so the fact that I'm here with him is it's pretty full circle, so it's exciting.
And they were prohibitive underdogs too.
Yeah. No, it's definitely cool to see. And like I said, I definitely couldn't stand Rick and the Mavs in that time. So it's definitely full circle and really cool to be a part of with him. And I ask these guys questions about that 2011 run all the time, and I have since I've gotten here. And now be able to create runs of our own has been a lot of fun.
When you talk to them about that, what do you hear that you've taken something from something you've been able to use?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I think they went into that situation similar to how we've went into a lot of our playoff runs of just being the underdog and knowing that a lot of people weren't picking them and just kind of going into it with I don't know a better way to put it than kind of with like an effort mentality. Sorry, I didn't want to cuss, but I had to right there. I didn't know how to get it across. But just kind of going into it that way, and as long as the guys in our locker room and the people in this building believe, then anything is possible. So we're really excited about the challenge. It's a really good team in front of us, and no quote-unquote expert or analyst is going to pick us, and that's okay. We like it better that way, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Ty, when you first got here, you talked about obviously wanting to beginning of your career, want to stay in Sacramento, you're here now. 2 years in, when did you know, okay, this feels like my team, my city type of thing? Like, was it from day one, or is that a cliche just because you had to say that because you got here on day one?
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew that getting here, I knew I was going to have to establish, myself for me to claim that this was my city or my team or anything, right? I had to prove more of myself individually and have more success, which I feel like I've been able to do. And I think that all the teams here were kind of struggling a little bit, but now we're all on the rise, and that's cool to see what the Fever are doing. Hopefully the Colts can have they're planning on them having a good year this year as well. So I don't look at it that way by any means. I think that I'm a mainstay, here in Indy, and I'll be a mainstay in this organization for a very long time, and that's exciting for me. But just to be a part of the growth here as a sports city has been a lot of fun, and just want to continue to make more memories for Indy sports fans, and just continue to leave my legacy here. So that's the biggest thing. But yeah, when I got here, I had the dream of that and being able to accomplish that. But it definitely takes time, and I think that comes with individual and team success, and I'm fortunate enough that I've been able to have some of that, but the plan is to have a lot more moving forward. So definitely still just keep my head down and keep working.
Ty, this group has become very adept at adjusting after losses. What do you see here in practice and film work and all that keeps one loss from turning into 2 or 3?
Yeah, I think just a sense of urgency. I think we had such a poor start to the year that we kind of had to approach it like, let's just approach it one game at a time. And, every loss I think felt bigger because of what our record was at the time. And I still feel that way. Every loss feels so big because it's playoff basketball, and if you give one away, you don't want to give 2 away. So I think that's just part of the resilience of this group, but also I think the basketball minds that we have here. Coach Carlisle and our staff are really brilliant at making adjustments and continuing to adjust on the fly, which has been really big for our success. And I think that when we lose, we typically get reamed in film, and our film study just intensifies even more. And I think that that leads to success for us.
Excuse me, I have a quick
Wait,
question.
question on the side over there.
Question to the left.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
I can get 2 bacon cheeseburgers and fries from Culver's.
I got you. Text me your full order, please. Yes, sir.
People that haven't seen the Pacers Thunder a whole lot this year, what would you tell fans, makes this compelling must-see TV?
Yeah, I think just 2 high-level basketball teams that play, an elite style of basketball, share the ball really well. A lot of different people can chip in. I think that's the exciting part about this. I don't want to say it's like a passing of the torch by any means, because the old heads are still here and they're still all playing very well. But definitely to see 2 young teams, 2 young organizations, fighting with a chance to win a championship, I think is a very big deal. So I think that's exciting for any basketball fan. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Rick was saying that, there's the moments throughout your career where you've been doubted, you've been candid about, man, do I have it myself? And what have you learned about just how to navigate pressure, and what entices you about a chance to win a championship and be immortal after that?
Yeah, I think that's just part of being put on the pedestal and being put on and being expectations rising. It's a part of it. And I think the biggest thing is just to keep, context and things, just understand that I'm a human being. I think that's the most important thing for me, because when I do well, I think that I'm, put even higher, and when I'm not doing well, it's, you're always put lower, and people are going to say things to you that, might dehumanize you a little bit, and you can be looked at as a statistic or, just what you do well as an athlete. And I think just always keeping context in it, and just knowing where your piece is. For me, that's become my friends and family. That's become the Lord. Like, those have been 2 big things for me to just ground myself. And I think this is a really exciting time for me personally to have this opportunity. This is something I've wanted to do my whole life. And, I think last year having playoff success in my first playoff run, and then being unsuccessful to start the season, and it really, for me, I thought a lot about, wow, maybe I took last year for granted, because I didn't know what the playoffs were going to look like as the year was going on. I didn't know if we'd be a playing team or where we would stack up in the end with how we were playing early in the year. So I'm definitely not taking this time for granted at all. Learning to appreciate every day and remember, all these days as best as I can. The practices, we'll have the media stuff, which will, I'm sure, suck to a sense leading up to this. Apologies to you guys. You guys are all great. You guys are all great. But no, I think just learning to appreciate that, man, and just be where my feet are. And I think, of course, it's easy human nature to set in and be like, yo, we're 4 wins away from winning a championship. All we got to do is this, that. We're going to be a champion. And this is what the parade's going to look like. It's easy to do that. But just trying to be grounded and be where my feet are and take it a day at a time, because, if we're able to do, what we set out to do, it'll be a really special feeling.
Pascal or Thomas Bryant, I don't know if you have any other guys who've won rings, but have they talked with you guys about what to expect and what this is going to be like?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday in film, as far as all the distractions, all the things that come with playing in the finals. We've had many conversations with it. I've had many conversations with Pascal leading up to this, just in passing, just randomly sitting on the plane. Tell me about this game in that playoff run. I think that's part of it, and I'm really excited about it. And we just continue to create more memories and do more stuff together. And I'm sure the finals
format as far as media and all that stuff has changed. Not that Pascal's old and not that that was a long time ago, but that was 6 years ago. So I'm sure some stuff has changed, but the main thing remains the main thing. The emotions, the energy in the building is going to be a lot of fun, and that's something we've talked about a lot. So I'm looking forward to it.
More about the building. You guys have been great road warriors. The Thunder have been one of the best home teams in the league. How have your ability to steal games? How do you think that's going to help you in the highest stakes environment you've had?
Yeah, it's exciting. I think we've had, like you said, we've had a lot of success on the road this playoff run. They've had a lot of success at home and really everywhere all year. So I think it's just about approaching a day at a time. We know the environment is probably going to, it's going to be the best road environment we've seen all playoffs. So we got to be prepared to go in there. Obviously, our organization is doing an amazing thing, bringing our full-time employees. They got a family plane that they're bringing. That's going to be a lot of fun to have our families and stuff there. So we'll have more Pacer fans in the building than we've probably had on the road all year, to be honest. But that's exciting, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we just got to approach it the right way, the same way we've approached every game, is just controlling what we can and trying to win the margins the best way we can. So I'm excited about it.
You talked about the underdog mentality. I guess you guys have spoken over the years about how almost everybody on this team has been doubted at some point in time or another. How much does that fact underlying factors kind of drive you guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's reigned true for most of us our whole careers, and this is just another stepping stone to it. We're all doubted in this series. There's not expectations for us to get here, externally, obviously. So we're just trying to approach it the right way. Just approach it the way we've approached every game, the way we approach every day. That nobody's expecting us to win except for the guys in this locker room, we believe. And, I think that's the exciting part about it is, when you get to prove people wrong, that's exciting. So, this is a great team that's in front of us, and it's going to be a great challenge. They're well coached. They're really, together group. The crowd's going to be amazing. It's going to be a fun challenge. But, if you were to win a championship, you want to beat the best, and these guys have been the best all year. So, we wouldn't want it any other way.
All right, guys, we're gonna let Myles get in here now. So we can get out of here.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Myles, what was Saturday like? When you get back to doing it on your home floor, just that celebration. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, man, it was definitely a lot sweeter. Doing it at home. Very validating for me. Obviously, like I said, over the years, just all the time I put into just to my craft and just to the city, the organization, and got a chance to do something special. So don't take it for granted.
Myles, this looks like something that's on the rise still, and yet it took 25 years for the Pacers to get back to the finals. How much of a mentality do you have that there's no guarantee you can get back here in another year or two, or that this is still the start of something, that this may be the opportunity?
Of course, it's a great way of looking at it. It's taken me 10 years, myself just to get here. So, it's a little bittersweet, but at the same time, the fact that it's finally here, you're right. Taking the opportunity and just running with it. You never know when you're going to be back here. You never know if the circumstances are going to be the same. And while the opportunity is here presenting itself, take full advantage of it.
You go to Montana often?
I usually go to more Wyoming. I go to Wyoming. I go to Wyoming every summer. It's Jacksonville area, Teton Village, and whatnot. But we drove up to Idaho, Montana last summer.
When you thought then about this, is the emotions you have right now about what you expected, how you hoped it would feel to be on this stage?
I wasn't sure how to feel, honestly. Because you thought about you spend so much time thinking about getting there, but it's like you're here now. So it's like you didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, when I'm here, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that. It's like let's just get there. So now that milestones has been achieved, it's about doing something with the opportunity. Like we talked about earlier.
Myles, as a kid, what was the first NBA Finals you remember watching and paying attention to?
Yeah, no BS. The first one I watched was Rick's run, 2011.
Same with Tyrese.
I'm a Dallas kid, man, and I really, they had got to the finals. I think Avery Johnson was the coach. Yeah, but I didn't really know. I was kind of just young, I didn't really just watch it for what it was. But I was a teenager when I was going on with the finals and whatnot with Dallas. So I watched that one in depth. I had a relationship with Chris Bosh when I was coming up too, so just watched him, and honestly, it was everybody was going for the heat at that time. They had Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, LeBron, and all them, but when Rick proved it, Dirk and the rest of his team, it's just that at the right time, anybody can get hot and take it.
Tyrese said he hated Rick for that series.
Nah, man, I think for me personally, I think it was more so about just the city. I mean, Dallas was like, I'd never seen it like that before. You know, just I'm from 30 minutes away from where Dallas is at, and you know, we had local vendors out there selling finals T-shirts, and everybody was hyped. The city was just in a whole different environment. So just what the finals could do for a city is something I think I took for underestimated as well. I mean, it's just been a different buzz here around Indianapolis. You know what I mean? It's just been, you know, these fans deserve this.
Myles, the Simon family and the Pacers organization is flying out all the full-time employees, so you'll have the support there in OKC. Just how special is that? How cool is that you guys will have that support up there?
Yeah, you know, it's I expect nothing less from the Simon family. I mean, they're a very accommodating, group, especially when it comes to their players and the organization. It's something they take a lot of pride in. So it's going to be amazing just to have my peoples up there and just rest of us to have the support. It's going to go into a hostile environment, so just take as much support as you can.
Myles, you mentioned several times over the last 3 years about how a lot of these guys on this roster, almost everybody's been doubted in some way, shape, or form, and that kind of creates an underdog mentality here. How much do you think that still drives you guys, or kind of forms the, kind of the soul of this team, I guess? Yeah,
and we thrive off it. I told you, I think since last year, every playoff series, we've been the quote-unquote underdog. People aren't expecting us to win, where we're at right now. And, until we prove it, people are going to think how they think. So I think that it definitely thrives us, thrown through that adversity and whatnot. And just, I personally wouldn't want any other way.
Myles, to that point, how do you think Ty has kind of embraced everything that comes with being the quote-unquote underdog, the pressure, the spotlight, since you met him when he first got here till now?
Yeah, well, he was an underdog when he first got here, so not much has changed, for him. He got traded away, and people kind of wrote him off. So he kind of had to, make his own way back, into the fold. And again, I don't think much has changed for him. I think his mentality has just been sharp. I think it's exactly where he needs to be, and he's improved upon it, year after year since he's been here. So I think it's a lot that comes with being the superstar, being the man, and I think he's handled it really well.
What do you think it does for a team to have somebody be candid about all that it is? He's very open with us when most athletes probably aren't.
Yeah.
And how can that be maybe a strength when you this guy's actually gonna be honest about how he feels, what's going on, and obviously I would expect him to be more honest with you all than us. But what has that been like for you as the teammate?
He's got a big persona, man, and again, people don't like that because of how confident he is. It's one thing to talk, it's another thing to talk it and actually show it. And he expresses how he feels, and I'd rather have someone on my team that does that than suppress their feelings or talk behind your back. He's gonna tell you exactly how he feels about every situation. And again, it's a rarity, but in your point guard, it's something I think is necessary.
What makes OKC so good, especially on defense?
They thrive off turnovers. They swarm the ball. They do a good job of just rotating and flying around. They don't necessarily have matchups. They got guys cross-match playing different guys, and they've been one of the better teams, especially defensive teams, all season long. So there's proper respect there. But at the same time, we've got one of the best staffs in this league. They've been preparing us over these past couple of days, for what's to come. So we get in that environment and just apply our principles.
They've been one of the best home teams too. You guys have been able to steal on the road and play really well on the road. How do you use that as you go into what's going to be your hardest environment so far?
Nothing changed for us. You go in there and just you stare down the opponents and with everybody else, and again, you apply your principles, you apply everything we worked on all season long, and then this is what we do it for. There's no greater stage.